Which brings us to why it's so important that we have fought as hard as we have and talked about it for as long as we have. But you will have heard the news today, Bendigo, that the plan to censor the internet is dead. Finally dead. Now, as you know, the plan for all of this was that the government wanted to decide that you should only be allowed to post things on your social media that are approved officially by the government, the stamp of truth from the same people who, of course, always tell us that down is up and left is right and that all sorts of things don't quite make the sense that they used to. Here in part was the media excited today about this stupid plan finally hitting the wall.
A bill aimed at cracking down on misinformation and disinformation on the internet has been pulled by the federal government.
Labor has dumped its controversial misinformation bill.
The Albanese government has scrapped its controversial misinformation bill that...
They all look so disappointed, don't they? Yes, but it's happened, right? Why? Because, as we've shown you all the way through, and I explained to everyone last week, the numbers just weren't there in the Senate. However, the final blow comes from the Greens, who say it didn't go far enough. And that, boo, I'm with you. And that is back to that central conversation I was saying about how much control versus how much freedom. It's not just, in this case, the Labor Party who put forward a decision when it comes to misinformation. Remember, Jackie Lambie said it didn't go too far. It didn't go far enough. On some levels, the Teals didn't think that it went far enough. And the Greens didn't think that it went far enough. And all of that's on the ballot paper, and everyone should remember that. Everyone should remember that at one of the most fundamental choices of our time, there was a very significant chunk of Australian politics who may well end up deciding the next federal government because they are the ones with the power in a minority government who wanted to go harder, wanted to go further. Of course, there are those who fought it hard and hard from day one. Pauline Hanson and One Nation, Ralph Babbitt and the United Australia Party, eventually, of course, the Liberal Party. But we all knew the second that we first saw this, that this was not okay. Never forget that Labor didn't let it get defeated in the Senate. They pulled it before it could get defeated. And in part, remember what one of their key motivations were. What was that word they used over and over again when the 60-40 support for the Voice became 60-40 hell no, including here in lefty Victoria? What was that M word they said over and over again?
Misinformation.
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 The misinformation which is there.
Some misinformation.
Now, another issue that you've got to get to and inevitably talk about is the economic scenario. Cost of living, we all know how painful cost of living can be and is for plenty of people right now. We know it when it comes to people that are trying to pay off a house, find a house to rent, people who are, of course, everyone who has to go to the shops to buy, inconvenient stuff like food, or, of course, power prices, which were supposed to be down by $2.75 permanently by next year, right? Never forget that at the upcoming one. Well, what about this from the analysis of the numbers that are around at the moment from the Bureau of Statistics? And this is the coalition who did it, but still. Our living standards are the worst since 1959 right now, i.e. your ability with the amount of money that you make each week, month or year and your ability to pay for life in Australia. It's the worst since 1959. Now, OK, you're immediately going, well, hang on, what about the 90s with 17% interest rates and what about that thing in the 70s and that thing in the 90s? It's about that overall package, though, about how much money is coming in versus how much money is going out. And households are suffering the worst decline in living standards since the 1950s, with a fall in real disposable income eclipsing that of the last 4 recessions, including the ones of the 1970s or even the COVID pandemic. The analysis of the official government statistics shows that the current cost of living crisis has hit households twice as hard as the 1901 and 1982-83 recessions, and significantly more sharply than any period dating back to 1959. So I feel there might be a size 9 boot that is coming for those that are currently in power. I've got a feeling it might be steel-capped, and I might have a feeling that it will kick the Prime Minister so hard in the arse that he'll ask for an upgrade because he'll be that high in the air. And we certainly know when it comes to an upgrade elbow, this bloke loves an upgrade.